Hello, good evening, welcome. Thanks for popping round again. Crikey, they roll around quick, these things, don't they? Every time you think, oh, I might have a night off, and then the next night, there you are again. But it's all good. We enjoy having you guys here, and thank you once again for, I'd say, inviting us. It's kind of your own fault, really. You've turned it on, but inviting us into your home. So it looks like we're kind of sparse, but don't worry, we do have a fourth person. They're stuck in traffic at the moment. They'll be on their way. But we wanted to start today anyway. We started a little bit earlier because we know we've got the Leeds game, so we know we've got to play them. But what we thought would be nice to kick us off would be to have a little chat with Yehuda real quick. So obviously we've got Connor there. We'll just wave at Connor. We invited him over. But Yehuda is the star of the show this evening because for those that didn't know, Yehuda has left his native land, came travelling over to come and see the game at LSV, and then pretty much immediately disappeared again. He's somewhere else now. He will explain all of that. But really, Yehuda, what we wanted to ask you was, how was your experience? You know, how hard was it? Because, I mean, you've come over from Israel to come and see the game. What's that like? Because I'm just used to, like, you know, flying up the M1 and sort of getting onto the M6, and there I am. I should imagine it's a little bit harder for you. So what sort of time did you have to leave to get there, and how's it all worked about for you?
Well, first of all, I'm in Lisbon now. Up the Lisbon. Yes, it's been like a whole tour around Europe. So yes, I set off to London on Friday actually. I've been in London on Saturday, and then Saturday evening nightish, I took a train to Manchester, and yeah, straight back, the next morning. Got up early, excited. My first game at LSV, my first game of United Women's team. Expecting to be like the rest of the season has been, 4 or 5 goals every home game at least. And what do I get? The first 0-0 of the season.
Now, I've told him already that I'm going to do this, but if we now go on to absolutely wallop Spurs, especially if that happens, we are going to have to blame Yehuda, and he'll never be allowed back in the country to watch the games. So, you know, have to be careful there, Yehuda. How long is the flight to get from Israel to the UK?
About 5 hours,
Crikey.
a little bit less. Yeah,
it's a long flight. So 5 hours to get all the way there. Then you've had, obviously, was it around London that you landed in?
Yeah. London, Luton. Yes, it's been like a few days of traveling non-stop. Train, bus, taxi, whatever.
Obviously, you've downloaded all the All for United stuff, and you've just been watching that to keep you company.
Absolutely.
Love that.
Line number 1.
Correct. Now, you might not see this, but in the background, he's been getting souvenirs. So you can just see it. He's tried really hard, bless him, to try and get his head in between. And he's covering one up all the time. But as you can see, he's got number 2 and number 11 there. So what made you opt for those two? I think it's probably going to be a silly question, because I reckon I'll know the answer when you say it. But why did you go for Honor and Leah?
To be fair, I could have picked anyone. But I really deliberated with myself which one to choose, because I can choose anyone. It's not like I have a clear favorite player. Maybe Millie a little bit, maybe also Golton. But I could have picked anyone. I just decided I did like a vote with myself, and eventually decided on these two. If I had enough money, I would have bought the whole starting 11 and the bench and devs and whatever. But that's what came. Of course,
but Russo's not for sale.
Yeah. Of course.
And so really the last sort of question that I wanted to get onto this was, as we said, it's your first time going. LSV, what did you think of it? Was it relatively simple for you to get to from where you were staying? What was your experience of the stadium? How did you enjoy being there with the fans and all that interaction? What was the day itself? I mean, obviously the game, not ideal for you, but everything else? How did that go?
Well, actually, I got pretty early to LSV. I took a ride with Natalie, bless her. So we got there at 10 a.m., like when the players arrived, about the time. So I had enough time to feel the atmosphere, feel the vibe, to meet everyone that I met through this channel or in the comments or whatever. So I felt like at home. I felt like really there was a really friendly atmosphere. Everyone was very welcoming to me. Even Alan Keegan, the announcer, said my name twice.
Well, there you
There you
go.
go, a guest from Israel, Yehuda.
He hasn't even
And,
mentioned my name yet. That's outrageous. You are much more important than me. And so, yeah, you enjoyed that. The game, like we said, wasn't necessarily perfect for you. But you did get the chance, as we said, to do that, get involved in some of the songs. So how would you rate it out of 10? What's your experience been like?
the experience was 10. The result. There is a saying, "Keep football out of football." The result is secondary. I got to connect with people. I got to have a discussion on football, not related to football, everything. So it was really nice to meet a lot of people, to feel welcome, to feel friendly vibe. It's not like I went from the game with a feeling of anger or anything. The result, okay. It's not fun and all that, but the experience as a whole, I take it as definitely as something very very positive.
Brilliant. And the last question, did you get any pictures of yourself with the players?
With Leslie, bless her.
You
Yes.
got one with Lessie. Oh,
Yes,
did you
yes.
tell us to sign the contract?
Yeah. No, I didn't mention that, but
That was your chance. That everything could have been on
yeah,
the balance for that.
yeah, she was really nice, and it's an opportunity to mention that I saw, like, after the game. I know that we talked about it a lot in this channel already, but after the game, really, Leslie, I think, was the first one to come to advertising audience where everyone waited. There was a lot of people, a lot of mainly young kids, and she really took the time with a lot of passion, with a lot of nice attitude to sign and to take pictures with everyone. And I hope that it's appreciated by everyone, and that we will not hear anything more about this and that player signed or didn't sign. Also, Mary came and signed everyone. That's the two I saw. And maybe after
She
there
was
was
signing the
more.
people,
What? Yeah,
signed
signing.
everyone. It's not on their
Yeah,
head.
yeah, yeah. Signing them to play. Maybe they will score.
Well, there you go. Well, listen,
Yeah.
Yehuda, I'm glad you had a good time, and I'm glad that you were able to get over. I'm only sorry that I couldn't be there. I know Connor was upset that he couldn't get there either, but his was car problem, and I was busy. I was busy watching Stevenage putting off the Russo vibes with the last minute goal against Luton. So great stuff, but really glad you enjoyed it. Let's catch up on what some of the people are saying. Sporty says could be an interesting debate tonight. We're just hoping basically that everybody keeps their cool. Is what we're looking for today, because if there is one that's liable to spill over, you can imagine it being this one. So we shall see how that goes. TJ is whistling at you, Yehuda. I presume that's as in a wow, great
Back at
job
you.
type thing. And Sporty says, look at that. You did well to get a train that was running, which is true. The amount of strikes we've had going here.
Actually, it was dangerous because it was the last train, so I took a chance.
Oh, you were taking that even clear. If that hadn't have been there, that would have been game over there. TJ, big fan of the fact you've got Honours jersey. And then, I don't feel like you mean that, if I'm honest with you, TJ. I think you're just throwing that in there because you realise what you did. And Sporties, of course, still liking the green yellow shirt. Ever since Arsenal, it's taken on a life of its own, really, hasn't it? And then, of course, Morty mentioned Leslie and the birthday girl. It is indeed. Is it today? All my days are merging into one. It is today, isn't it? Yes. So happy birthday, Alessia Russo, 24 years old, and you don't look a day over 23. So well done, you. Right. I hope you've not watched that. I mean, to be fair, it's still younger than 24, though, isn't it, Les? So, behave. Look, I've got family from Maidstone, all right? So don't you start. Right. Anyway, put your complaints through to Connor. He's in charge. Speaking of which, hello, Connor. This must be the longest amount of time you've had to be quiet whilst sat in a corner there. Are you okay? Have you been getting some work done?
Well, yeah, and I was trying to sort my hair out because I don't want that to be the centerpiece of the show again, like it was on Monday
Hair
night.
is always the centerpiece.
so I'm trying to do something a little bit different, just for everyone that was in the comments on Monday night that started the ice gem and the Jabrew and everything else that was flagging up on Monday night. I've tried to change.
A week ago, you were Eugene. Yesterday, you're an ice gem. Interested to see where you end up with today. We shall see.
I need to catch up on what I missed on Monday.
Oh,
you do. Yeah,
it was a big one. So
give me a brief later.
We will.
Trust me, when he gets here, I'm sure there'll be something. But there we go. So, I mean, Connor, anything you'd like to say to Yehuda just about the level of commitment, really, that is to be able to get themselves over to watch a women's game, because we know what it's like, and that's just coming, from a bit further south.
Well, that's what I mean. I moan about the M6, so which is a nightmare, by the way. I'm not downplaying it. It is. No, I'm just annoyed that I couldn't get there because it turns out I could have now, which is even more frustrating. I had all kinds of manner of things that I needed to do, and then the things that was going to cost me the most money yesterday got cancelled. So I was like, oh, great. So I could have gotten them on Sunday to save. But anyway, so I'm a little bit annoyed about that. But no, yeah, fair play for doing it. I respect any, international fan that comes over, and not only just comes over, watching the games live as well, because getting up at ridiculous times sometimes, or staying up ridiculously late to watch games. Yeah, fair play, and I'm glad that you enjoyed it. You got to experience what us match-going fans experience on the regular, and I hope if there's people in the comments that have not been to games or have not had that opportunity to come over yet, that everyone gets that chance at least once. Because I think, as Yehuda, you said, regardless of the result, the day, seeing people, seeing the players, and just being there in amongst it makes up for it. Because I've had that multiple times when we've been to games, and yeah, the result's been awful, but I'm stood next to Barry or Charlie or John or whoever it is that's around us, and it's great because you're stood next to people that you relate to and that you like as well. So yeah, that makes a huge difference.
So there we go. Good stuff. Right, I've just tasked Connor with some work. He's just going to have looked at that and seen that now in the chat, and he's like, "Oh, why didn't you tell me that before we started, Barry?" And the answer for that is Yehuda turned up, and we started talking to Yehuda. So there we go. But anyway, there's three things really that we want to have a little chat about tonight. We're going to talk a little bit about the internationals. It all merges into one. In a minute, we're going to be moving on to squad rotation, and especially all this news that's come out about Adriana Leon. But I am going to kick off just briefly a little introduction. Because he's saying it's rejected. It can't be, because I'm about to say it's going to happen. So if he rejects it, it will go very wrong. But I put out a poll on my Twitter, which was sent out via the All for United pigeons, and they took it away and sent it to all the other people. And the poll asked, where do you think Manchester United women are going to finish this season? Will it be first, second, third, or fourth or below? Now, what was interesting about that is that poll finished before we played the game at the weekend. And I sat there and thought, I wonder how much that's changed. So it's going to be a much smaller poll and in a much shorter amount of time. But Connor's literally just going to put it up in the chat now, whether or not we're going to finish first, second, third, or fourth or below. And I just want you to click the one that you think now, having had the weekend. And then what we're going to do is just at the end, we'll talk about the differences between the two polls. But I'm not going to say what finished what until then, because otherwise you might go, oh, well, I'm going to change my mind now. And if you're going to change your mind, change it. Don't let the results that they were before try and skew your polls like we did the other day with Honor, when clearly Garcia was the person that won that. Honestly, what's wrong with you people? But we're going to kick off. We might as well. Straight in. Vilde Risa, Tunkara, Adriana Leon. Just some of the players that we bought and that probably haven't really had too much game time. Vilde, you could argue, wasn't a Skinner signing, so in that respect, probably isn't quite on the same level. But people are confused, concerned. We've had people like Leon turn up, Tunkara turn up, and not play. It is a tricky one. I understand why some people might sit there and think these people should be given a chance, they should play. But equally, we've got a team at the moment that's doing really well. So before I even move on to those players, I want to ask, and you don't have to name the players, but do you feel like there are players within the team who you think could be dropped / rested / moved aside to allow for rotation and competition that wouldn't make you go, oh, I wouldn't want to take that person out of that position because they're doing really well? So are there any players, again, you don't have to name them, but if you want to, of course you can. It's a free country. What would you do? So Yehuda, we'll kick off with you on that one. What do you think? Are there any players that are currently in the starting lineup that you think could make way for others without there being too much of an issue?
Well, it's a big issue, this one. I think maybe first of all, maybe we should try to look at it a bit differently. I don't think that the argument here is if a player is dropped, if a player is good or bad or whatever. I think the issue that even like if I think okay, we know, for example, Tuni is a better player than Vilde. Okay, if we take this comparison because they are the same position. But anyway, Vilde should have played more, not necessarily like be a starter instead of Tuni, but in addition to the Conti Cup games, maybe like to put her, first of all, that she will be a sub pretty much every game, unless there is a certain situation that that you can make sense of why not. But like, for example, start substitution at 60th minute, 70th minute, give those players more minutes to see if they are in shape, if they are sharp. Because, I mean, we know that Vilde and Leon, Tunkara maybe less because we didn't saw as much. We know that they can do something. We know that they are at the level that can help us. So the problem for me is that if they don't get minutes at all, and you go on through the season without them being match fit, match sharp, then you lose their contribution in the latter stage of the season that you will need, whether it's because of an injury, someone suspended, someone out of shape. You need to change things in order to get out of a certain situation in matches. So I think it's starting to be an issue because I think that there are some players, and again, it's not the question, is that player good or bad? Is that player is better than him? Is he dropped or not dropped? I think we're at the stage that there are some players that, I don't know, maybe mentally fatigued, maybe physically or whatever, maybe just lack of sharp, maybe there is a certain period of the season that are less informed. And for that reason, we built such a deep squad and we don't use it. And when things were going well and we were winning games like 4 or 5-0, everything was good. But sometimes even when things are good, you need a little bit, a little bit to mix up things just to be ready, Not like changing the whole lineup in the next league game, but just be a little bit more clever. I mean, even in this game, when you have such a deep squad with quality players on the bench and you make only 2 substitutions, you can't really change too much during the game. You need all the time. You need fresh players. You need to bring something different. If a certain team reads your plays and deals with them in a certain way, then you need to be able to bring someone else that maybe will try something different. Again, I'm not necessarily better player she came on for, but bring something different. And I think that is missing. Definitely, Vilde and Leon should be getting more minutes. Tunkara, it's another thing because center backs it's something that it's difficult to change. And from the beginning of the season, Maya and Millie made those positions their own. So that, I mean, I'm very curious to see how Tunkara plays because she came to us supposedly as a starting player, as an international player that should be at the level that Manchester United needs. But I can't say anything about that. I'm just really curious to see what she can bring. The other two definitely should have played more.
Yeah, I think it's a tricky one, isn't it? But Connor, can you see places where you think? I mean, I know we had a bit of a dust up last time about who we might change for the cup, but do you see positions on the pitch where you think rotation could or should happen?
I mean, yeah, any player in any position is up for grabs. It depends how you play throughout the season. You know, that goes for everybody. We've all said that it's based on your performance and so on. I know Lanzel put a bit earlier that we seem to be having this discussion after every single game. We're only having this discussion because of the narrative that's pushed. That's the reason why we're having discussions like this. I think a lot of fans are relatively content with what's going on, but we have these discussions because there are a lot of fans also talking about this as well, which I don't fully know where I sit on it because I tweeted this earlier. On one hand, Skinner's job is not to be thinking about the national sides of these players. Quite frankly, I don't think he should care what the national sides are doing because that's not his job. His job is to win games for United. But Yehuda made the point that I made a few weeks ago, and I've kept saying that if somebody gets injured, let's say one of the midfielders gets injured and Vilde's got to come in, she's got to be match fit enough to be able to come in the first place. So if she's not playing at all, and then we get an injury and she's got to come in, that's a problem because then she's not ready to come in. And I think it's the same for attack is a little bit different because we've got so many players there. I don't think it makes too much difference. But where you midfield and you defend and things like that, that's where you just need to bring people on. Just having a bit more sharpness ready for the players for when they are needed. Because there is going to become a time in the season where they're needed. We've seen it with Rachel Williams. She's come on and scored, and she's earned her minutes that she's got because she won us 3 points against Reading. You know, she's won us games and got us extra goals for helping with goal difference and things like that. So, in answer to your question in short, yes, every player in every position is up for rotate. I don't like using that word dropped because I don't think anyone has deserved to be dropped this season. I don't think anyone has played bad enough to go, right, they're not good enough. Let's bench them. I think you could argue there's players that have performances have dipped a little bit. And you could go, right, let's try something different for this game. But I think we're all in agreement. It's not change. We're not talking about changing the whole team here. It's one or two players at most. And even then, I wouldn't even change the starting 11. I'd be looking at just bringing players on earlier, just in case we get an injury or you need one of those players further down the line. Because otherwise, the only point... it was a lot... I'm not going to try and find the comment because it was a lot further up. But I think it might have been Lanzel made the point that players eventually will just stop coming to United because we're not going to be a viable option. Because, why would I go there? Because I'm not going to play. Some players would argue, well, I'm good enough. I'm going there and I'm going to push that player out of the starting spot. But at the same time, we don't know. Ultimately, we're all speculating. That's why I love shows like this because it's just opinions and guesswork because we don't see the training. We don't see all the training footage in the behind the scenes. So it's different. But yeah, in short, answer to your question, yes, every player is up for debate, I feel.
I guess it's a tricky one as well, isn't it? Because we talk a lot about the top teams and how we're trying to fight to be within the top three and to be one of the big teams in the WSL. And, you know, one of the ones that's always pushed is Emma Hayes. And Emma Hayes is no pushover. You know, people sit here and talk about how Emma Hayes behaves and how they wouldn't necessarily want her to manage United, but she's a winner. She knows what she's talking about. And when you watch the documentary, it was on DAZN, or DAZN, I don't know how you say it, whatever it is, but that channel that's on the interweb, when you watch that, you know, she's a bit of a beast to some of those players. You know, she walked into the changing rooms and said, look, either you do the job or I'll get somebody else in who can. You know, it wasn't exactly putting her arms around them and saying they're there. And I think it was it Deanna Rose? Who was the one that went to
Reading.
Reading?
Yeah, that's Diana was.
And
Yeah,
it
yeah.
was her, and she was sat there saying, "I really want to play. I'm not even playing the Conti Cup games." And she's like, "I can't fault your professionalism. You've been brilliant. You're working really hard." But then she still didn't play, and in the end, she ends up crying and moves off to Reading. And you know, listen, nobody wants to see people crying. It's not like I'm sitting here going advocating, yes, take them all. No, that's not what we're after. But is there not an element here of strong management requires you to do what's best for the club, not necessarily what's best for the individual? Like, you know, working through primary schools and that sort of thing, ultimately you end up sitting there and you're trying your best to bring players along as a whole. You're not just sitting there going, oh, we must go and beat all these other teams. You get that here. You know, there's a real thing for competition. And actually, that competition for places, as Connor's just said, as I think we can all agree, the team is not sitting there top of the, you know, third in the table, fourth in the table. We're in the top two, and we're very clearly fighting for that top spot. If that's the case, making a change, we often hear right at the beginning of the season, yeah, but you can't drop a game. You can't drop these points because if you do, you can't pull them back. You can only afford to lose 1 or 2 games. So why would we gamble with that in the league? You've got to go with the people that you trust. So I feel like that's quite a big thing. Would you not go along with that, Yehuda? Do we not think that actually it's not about the national teams? It's not really about the individuals. It's about our job is to put the best players that we can in the depth. I mean, I saw quite a new person on here. Where are you? Here you are. And whilst I don't necessarily agree with what you called him at the end, you said it's not a tricky one. MS moaned last time, that's Marc Skinner, I presume, about the team's depth. Then now he is saying there's not enough games, but actually they're not the same thing, are they? Having a team's depth is so that if you are playing the games and you need to bring people on, like we did last season, and we didn't have the depth to bring good quality players on, that's a different thing to saying, well, there isn't enough games. But if somebody's injured, like, you know, we end up with needing to bring Mannion in and Caldwell and those sorts of people. If we do that, you need that depth. You need to have that ability for someone who's just as good to come in, not necessarily someone that's down. So, you know, where's your sort of thinking on that point?
What was the question? I've lost you a little bit there.
It was a long one. So basically, do you think that we should be pandering to the players effectively? Do we need to care what the players are thinking aren't there? Is it not their job to work hard and be available and ready to step up when Skinner wants them? Ultimately, they've signed the contracts and that's it. Or do we have to be careful because, like people are saying, they might not want to be recruited in the future because they'll look there and go, oh, well, maybe we won't get him play there because we're not as good as Elatun or we're not as good as Leslie Russo or Batier. So why would I want to play second fiddle? Where's the balance?
I don't think it's about when we say what we say. It's not about you know, we look at it from the angle of the players and we want them to feel good, or we want other players to want to come. Eventually, like for me, from my point of view, I say what I say because I think it will be better for the team. Of course, you always have to put the best players on the pitch, but that doesn't mean that those best players can't sometimes sit on the bench, can sometimes get subbed a little bit earlier, that there can't be a little bit more movement inside the squad. It doesn't devalue any one of the let's say the starting 11 that they are quite clear. It's not about other players feel good. It's about, for me, it's about maximize the potential of the whole squad for the better of the team. I mean, almost every winning team, every men's or women teams that created success, unless if it's in a short tournament, had the deep squad and use it in the way that will allow all the players to get the best out of themselves always. Sometimes you even you change even when things are good, because you want to keep the players hungry. You want to play to keep them sharp. I don't think, obviously, that Skinner thinks about the national teams or whatever, but I think we're just looking for a little bit of balance, a bit more of a balance act between letting the best players play and between keeping the whole squad fit and on the toes and ready uh, to get in to enter a match, whatever match it will be, whether it's Chelsea or Reading or whatever, in
Yeah.
like when they don't need like any other preparation, that they are already fired up, they're already physically prepared and sharp enough.
That seems like a reasonable point again. And again, Don has just put on here in response to what I was saying earlier. Emma Hayes rotates her squad quite regularly, though. Tony has come to bat. He says Emma's got better players on the bench. But ultimately, what I'm getting at was not so much whether she should rotate or not. It's about she makes her decisions based on her team, based on what she needs to achieve and what she thinks those players can do. And I suppose what I'm getting at is that she's very good at it because she's won a lot and she's done a lot and, she's right up there. So I do think it's quite important that we make that particular differentiation. This one, though, Connor, is something that I'm going to ask you to point out on. Nanzo, we are going to come to your question. We're not scooting over it. It's not how it works here. That's why we're having this conversation. Believe me, when we're talking about it previously, Connor and I are both sitting there going, oh, really? You're going to talk about Leon? But this is what you guys want to talk about, and that's what we're here for. We're not sat here servicing our own agendas. We're not sitting here thinking, what do we want to talk about? It's what do you want to talk about? It's all for United. So if this is what you want to chat about, we'll keep going with it, even if we don't end up talking about the Lionesses and that tonight. It's not a problem. We'll carry the discussion with where you guys want to go with it. But this one is an interesting one because I was in a little Twitter chat with somebody earlier on. Don's put Emma Hayes doesn't let her players become comfortable. In our team, I think some players are becoming too comfortable and feel untouchable. Now, with the news that came out about Leon, the fact that there was an offer, it was accepted or wasn't accepted, it didn't get through, something went wrong. But either way, there was an offer, there was a possibility for her to leave the team. Now, what I found really interesting about all that is we're talking about Russo. Was she not able to play the game? Was she not able to score as well as she'd like to? Was she not feeling comfortable, confident? Is there an element if she doesn't feel like, and not just her, but could players be thinking, actually, there's nobody below me that's going to get there? So, like, is Tooney thinking, by Risa, she's not better than me. She's not starting if I'm fit. Russo, is she looking at that going, doesn't really matter what's going on everywhere else. They've got to be better than me to play. And they're not. Whereas people like Garcia and Galton and those sort of players, they're like, could potentially have people, Thomas. So they are getting that rotation because there's a possibility for them to play. Do you think that there's an element of that comfortableness, if that's even a word?
Potential. It's a real tough one because we're not inside the players' heads, so we can't answer it with definite fact. I would say that some players are definitely more. So I've gone all blurry now. I don't know what's going on here. There's some players that I think are more of a shoe-in than others. I think when you're looking at the team sheet, every single manager, they can deny it all they want, will have favourites. They just do. Every manager does it. Every workplace has it. Everywhere you go into, any walk of life, you will have people that you'll kind of favourite or you gravitate more towards because that's just what happens. But I don't think players will get too comfortable in there because we brought a lot of players in. Leon, you mentioned, that's such a weird one because it was one of Marc Skinner's signings. Obviously came in the summer and then we accept a bid for her in January. That just seems bizarre. I don't know what's gone on there. And this is why she's on the thumbnail because for me, something's obviously gone on that we don't know about because she's not done that bad on the pitch. So something's obviously gone on off the pitch that we don't know about. For us to accept an offer 6 months later from when we signed her, that's really weird. So potentially there's an argument to that. But it's like I said earlier, at the end of the day, Marc Skinner, whatever you think of him, is out of contract in the summer. Obviously, he's got the 1-year option to an extent. But his job is obviously clearly to get us in the Champions League. At the moment, we're on track to doing that. He can't think about oh, I need to start playing this player to keep the fans happy or to do this. He's got to win games, because ultimately he might be out of a job in the summer if we don't get top 3 and he starts experimenting with systems mid-season. So, yeah, I'm not entirely sure where I sit on this debate, because as I said earlier, I would like to see some players get more minutes than they are, but at the same time, he can't afford to start experimenting with things midway through the season. But I do agree that there maybe is a little bit of an argument to say that some players probably look more comfortable, because they are, because every manager will have favourites. Emma Hayes will have favourites, Serena will have favourites. It just happens.
Yeah, it's very tricky, and a reasonable point here again from Melinda. Some great points being put forward by you, so thank you. But that is exactly what happened with the men's team for the last few seasons. They had a first 11 who started every game. When the squad rotates due to injuries, they didn't play well due to a lack of minutes. I would argue back with that, and people that know me well will know that this is what I do. But my point would be, well, the men's players weren't doing that great. So you're saying that over those few years, they weren't doing that great. So, you know, people argued that Harry Maguire was being picked just because he was worth £80 million rather than being the best defender. Now, I'm not putting judgment on that. I'm just saying that's what people would say. But I found it hard, and I don't know what you think, Yehuda, but I found this conversation particularly difficult because it's coming at a time when we're doing better than we've done ever in the history of Man United women. We are scoring more goals. We've got the best defensive record one of the best defensive records in Europe. It's one of the best 3. We are fighting for the top of the table, might I add here. It's not just we're trying to be top 3. We're actually in a title battle. And we've got people sitting here moaning about the rotation. And I would like to point out that if anybody watches Leah Galton's interview with Ian Wright, he's talking about winning the player of the match and all that sort of stuff. And TJ's put here, like, this was a good one. At the end of the day, in Marc, it's Marc and his staff who see the players each day. Marc's position is based on results, not keeping X, Y, and Z happy. TJ says, definitely, we do want a squad with 6+ upset players. Now, that player of the month for Leah Galton, when that was done, she literally says there's a fantastic buzz around the place at the moment. She literally says it. I've screenshot it because I wanted to be able to use it in case I had any people having a go at me. But we've got players that are literally saying the place is brilliant at the moment. So is it a fine line as well? You know, yes, we want them to be upset they're not playing, but just because they're upset they're not playing doesn't mean they're all like down in their tools and going, oh, I hate this person, it's all terrible. You know, you can be upset you're not playing without feeling like, you know, the world's over sort of thing. Is that not right, Yehuda?
Yes, of course. Everyone can be. I mean, it's okay that there will always be players upset that they are not playing, especially in a big team. And again, we're not looking forward to. The issue is not to keep anyone happy or not. Yes, I have criticism about the lack of using in certain players, and maybe I moan, maybe I'm not, I don't know. But for me, I'm really on it because I feel that if I look like on the reality, I see that we have a team that can do great things, but maybe something is a little bit held back there. Like I try to in what I say to push for the team to maximize the potential that I think that they have. If it was like a situation that I will say, okay, we are in second or third place, and I think that this is the best that we can get to. Happy days, you know, all good. We are doing the best that we can. I really think that this season we have a chance. We have a chance, and it's not like if it doesn't happen and if we finish second or third, we are bad. We are the worst team ever. But I think that we have a chance to do something really, really big this year. And yes, if I see that something is not going in that direction, then okay, I will say it, because I think that the whole thing of how to use the squad might might prevent us from doing that extra step. Not that we are not doing good now. We're doing great. But I really feel that we have a chance now. And I think that also, again, it's only 2 games, maybe 3 games. But I'm just starting to ask myself, maybe I'm throwing us to another discussion, if there really is a plan B when things are not going well. Because again, it's little things, but there is in the last few games something a little bit off. You could just simplify it and say, okay, it's only finishing that are not. But also we need to ask ourselves, why are those players are not finishing as well? Why are maybe the chances are not good enough? Maybe not for the right players. Maybe they are not sharp enough. Maybe they are tired mentally or physically or whatever. But again, it's not about. I'm not like a fan of players, and I say, okay, I want Leah Golton to be happy. I want Tony to be happy. It's not about that. It's about keeping the team, about maximizing the potential of the team. And I think that something is a little bit going lost in the last few weeks. But okay, now it's the time to see what we are made of and to see how we bounce back.
Absolutely. Fair point again. I think it's really interesting. And TJ, or wherever it was, you're in trouble. His camera's not better than ours. What's wrong with my camera? My camera's been absolutely fine lately. Why are you getting all upset? Getting in my grill for?
Mine probably hasn't, to be fair.
Listen, take the mickey out of Connor. We're not sitting here taking the mickey out of me. I've done nothing wrong. I'm just sitting here, refereeing. So, good points. TJ's made a good point here again. He's put, that was my first thought too. He's talking to Mike there. All the starters have been glowing about the team, which kind of underlines what I was just saying. You would be glowing about the team because you're playing. But equally, the ones that aren't playing are going to be sitting there going, I want to play. And that's what you want. If you've got players that are sitting on the bench going, oh, I'd like to play, but I'm not playing. Never mind. Oh, it's all right. Don't worry. I'll just pick up my paycheck. Not bothered. Then that's when you have a problem. People that are just willing to take the money and sit there and not bother to play. You want them to want to play. Of course you want that. Does that equal an unhappy dressing room? I don't think so. But there we go. Like we said, it's all a show about personalities and opinions right now. We're going to come to a question that Lanzel asked a little bit earlier on. About 15 minutes earlier on, actually, but never mind. We've kept it going because there's been other things to chat about. It's a really interesting one. And I've got to say, Lanza, I feel like you've got out of the wrong side of the bed today. You're not your usual smiley self on here. You seem a little bit angry with Mr. Skinner, but that's all right. It's allowed. We all have these days. But again, he's got a question, so we're going to throw it out there, not just to the panel, to everyone. Let's see what you think. So it says, at this point, win, lose, or draw, do you is the man to take us forward in the Champions League competitions and league? And I'm going to lead this by simply saying yes. I said it on the weekend. The problem at the weekend was not Marc Skinner. The problem at the weekend was that the players did not take advantage of the chances that they had created. There has been more than enough chances over the course of the last 3 games for us to win those games handsomely and without trouble. And if there is anybody who sits there and doesn't see that, then I'm sorry, you need an appointment at Specsavers. The chances were there. Marc Skinner, for all of whatever faults you might want to have for him, is not responsible for players not putting the ball in the back of the net. He does not have control over that. He can bring on all of his substitutes. He can bring everyone on. He can put Bagley up front. He can put Thor up front. He can put whoever he wants up front. But they are still responsible for putting that ball in the back of the net. Now, you say win, lose, or draw. I think this is a bit of a tricky question. If we win and we make like the title, absolutely, Marc Skinner he deserves it. He's earned it. If he gets us into Champions League, absolutely, he's earned it. He deserves it. That's how it should work. We are in, and I'm just going to say it because that's how I feel. I think we've got a really spoiled fan base at times in Manchester United. I think we really do. We've lived through years where we have been so successful. And you need to be my age to understand that we were rubbish. We really were. Like 1987, when I was 5 years old and I first started watching, we weren't great. We had some great players, but we weren't great. We weren't winning stuff. And we hadn't won the league for 26 years. So people forget that. We're sitting here going 10 years without it. Most people of an older age are going, well, it's been worse. So we need to sit there and realise that there's no divine possibility for that. We're so used to winning that we think that this is the expectation. And actually, it takes time to grow. You can't just go like that and all of a sudden you're there. Don't worry, Connor's having Wi-Fi issues. He'll be back. But at the moment, it's just me and Yehuda. This is strange. I've never been on a show where it's just two of us. This is entertaining. But that'll be good fun. So I just find that a little bit intriguing. There he is. He's back again. A little bit intriguing to me personally. Now, if we don't make top three and we've made it into fourth, for me, regardless of my own opinions, I think people have got a right to say, all right, maybe Skinner should go if he wants to, and that's up to them. But for me, they finish third or above, then personally, I think he's earned the right to have a go at progressing us because he's managed to do it every year so far. That's my personal thoughts. Connor, we might as well grab you whilst you're still here, just in case you decide to dip out again. What's your thoughts?
I was going to say, I apologize if I lag out or whatever. I don't know what's going on here. It's quite a simple answer, to be honest. Is he demands takes forward? If he gets top three, then yes, because he's done what he was brought in to do. I know people like to talk about Casey and things like that, and I know she had a younger squad and a newly promoted squad, but obviously we haven't got to that place before. So if he gets us there, then yes. I don't see what his sole job as Manchester United manager is to win games for Manchester United. I do not care what he says in the meet, unless he comes out and starts slagging everybody off. Then I've got a bit of an issue with it. Or if there's
what if he says you've got hair like an ice gem? Would you be upset then?
I'll let it go because you said that on Monday, and I'll let it and because we get on, we'll let it slide. But no, his sole job is to win games for Man United, and if we're doing that, I don't see what the problem is. Don't like him, fine. If people don't like his personality. I can get over that. So it's not going to be for everybody. Not everyone in the squad is going to like his personality. You name me one. I say this all the time. You name me one profession that you go into, one job that you go into, and you like every single person that you work with. You don't. You have your little office meetings where you start bitching about somebody else, that you don't like and everything. You don't like everybody. So if you don't like him as a person, fine. But he's been brought in to win games for Man United, and if he gets us in the top three, I really don't care. He should be offered a new contract for the next season, and let's see how we go from there. I'm not saying that, if we get top three, let's give him a 4-year deal and so on. We'll assess it year on year, but I do think he deserves at least another 2 if he does get us into the Champions League, because we're on track for that. If we're sat here in the summer and we've dropped out of the top 3 and we've had a big collapse at the end of the season, then I think there's an argument to start going, right, okay, we've had 2 years now. He's brought his own players in. We've not got Champions League again. Is there another manager out there we can get? But I know, Barry, this is something you said, and that I've said it before. A lot of people like saying, I don't think he's the right person, but nobody offers an alternative. If we're going to get rid of him, you've got to offer an alternative that's better, that's equal or better.
Have you not heard the
Otherwise,
alternative?
what's the point?
I don't think we can't have been here on Monday then. So the alternative that's being lauded about is that Serena Wiegmann is going to leave England, and she's going to come to LSV, and all of our prayers will be answered because we'll have a manager who understands the game, is what I appear to be hearing from everywhere at the moment.
Let's quickly answer that. So, world-class manager. She probably is one of the best managers in Europe. I'm telling you now, she is not leaving England to come to United over the summer off the back of a World Cup, might I add. That is not going to happen. So let's just get that out of the window. There might be some other great managers that we are not talking about right now. I don't want this to turn into a manager debate because there'll be loads out there across Europe that are doing stellar jobs right now. I'm not disputing that. But right now, he is in charge, whether people like it or not. And we are on track for the targets that would have been set for him at the start of the season. It really depends. I know I can't remember what Lanzell's point, the way he questioned it, but it really depends where we finish. Because, as I say, if we get Champions League, I really don't see what the complaints can be about. If we get, this is really unrealistic, but if we get Champions League but lose every game for the rest of the season, obviously City will have a massive collapse for that to happen as well. Then I think there's a little bit of an argument. But right now, I don't think we can be having that discussion because I just don't think. Yes, there's certain players are unhappy, but as I said before, no workplace, everybody is absolutely happy with everything that goes on. It's not going to happen. People look at football and go, oh, everyone must get on. They all go out. They all do it because they see all the social media posts and they see all the media events. Doesn't happen. Anyone who's played football will tell you that. You don't get on with everyone in the dressing room. It's never going to happen. So, Yes. In answer, it really depends where we finish. It really does. And right now we're on track to do it, so I don't see the issue personally. But if people don't like him, I kind of get it, because there's managers in football I don't like. And I look at and go, oh God, I don't want you in charge of our club. Mourinho was one of those. I couldn't stand him when he came to us because I didn't like him as a person. But if he won trophies with us, which he did, I was like, great, he's winning games for us. So it's one of those. Depends how you support the team.
I agree. And you think again about the managers, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. I mean, for me, that man was done dirty. He really was. He improved us every single year. He was doing well. He took us to more semi-finals and finals than we've been to for ages. And, yes, he didn't win anything, but it was better and we were enjoying it. And I think we forget that football's there to be enjoyed. Sometimes we overanalyze it and go too mad. TJ, taking the money doesn't really work in a women's game. Well, it does. Ultimately, I'm pretty certain that the women playing for Manchester United Football Club will be earning more money than I'm earning. I feel reasonably comfortable in saying that. But even if they wasn't, they're still taking the money if they're happy to just be sat. That's what I mean. It's irrelevant whether you're talking about 10 grand a year or whether you're talking about 100 grand a year or a million a year. It's still just taking the money. If you're just happy to be sat on the bench, you don't want players like that. That's what I'm getting at. It's not about being happy to sit on the bench. It's about being in a situation where you do want to play because you want your players to do that. Now, I find it really interesting, and we're going to come to you on this now, Yehuda, as well. But this is the thing I don't get, Yehuda. So we're talking about a team that's finishing at the moment higher than it's ever finished before. As Don said here, nobody's having a go at his good brand of football. They all think that the way we're playing is good. The next arguments are his game and player management skills are just questionable. Now, I'm going to sit here and say it again. I don't think any of us have got the right to be talking about player management because there doesn't appear, there's no players are coming out and going, I don't want to play for Marc Skinner. It's not like we had Dean Henderson doing what he did when he left the team. No players are actually coming out. I'm not seeing anything on the media. I don't care that you've heard it because your auntie's dog's best mate has spoken to somebody else who's speaking to Shirley down the road who gets her milk from the geezer who happens to be the same bloke who delivers the milk to Marc Skinner. I'm not interested in that. What I'm interested in is what am I seeing? Actually seeing. Not, I heard it from the girls because they're not talking to you. That's not happening. They're definitely not talking about how much they hate Marc Skinner to people outside of their bubble. It's not occurring. It's only if you see it reported. And I'm not seeing that. So I don't think we can really argue with his player management skills. Now, his game management skills, you can sit there and argue with till the cows come home. That's what opinions are all about. I get that. But I'd still argue that his game management skills have put us into a situation where we've only lost one game against Chelsea and then drawn. It's not been that hard. It hasn't been terrible. So, Yehuda, is Marc Skinner the man for you?
I have my doubts. At the moment he is, yes, until we'll see what happens in the end of the season. I can't say no. That would be crazy. But yes, it's true that we only lost 5 points this season, drawing and a loss. So you can't say he's to blame in too many bad things, but yes, I think that the criticism was built maybe even in the games that we have done well, that we saw maybe a pattern of not changing things, and maybe now there is a feeling that we are seeing the result of maybe things that weren't managed correctly, but that's just the eyes of a simple fan that doesn't know anything of his life. But yes, for your question, yes, game management is still a doubt for me. I still need to see more opportunities to evaluate this thing, but overall, Yes, last season and this season we have blessed you. We have made an improvement, so there's nothing wrong with that. But yes, I think maybe there are some fans, and I am amongst them, that we feel that this is our time to push further. My concern is that if we don't get Champions League this season, then maybe it will be harder in terms of maybe players leaving or whatever, and so things can get trickier. And I feel that we have to. I don't know how you say this phrase in English, but
Give it a go.
Is it-
It'll be
we
no
have
different than
to,
Connor trying to pronounce Berkakara.
like, the irony is we need to
That's
to
one
to take
Yehuda
this.
problem.
Yeah. Anyway, I just ranting and ranting, so go ahead, stop me.
Brilliant. Okay, so I'll just respond to a couple of these. So Lanzel's put, for me personally, love the winning and dominating games, but there's been a couple of games that's frustrating, and the outside noise doesn't help as well. Listen, I totally agree. Can I just say, I very rarely just sit here and be all open and honest, and through that, just be careful where you're getting your outside noise from. It happens in every game, whether it be the men's game, the women's game, whether you're looking at your news articles, Facebook, and all that stuff that comes on. You've got to be careful where you're getting your noise from. Listen to the people you know you can trust. Listen to the people where you know your noise is coming from, because I swear to you, some of this outside noise is just mad. It's absolutely crazy, and it will drive you absolutely mental. I really recommend listening. This is why I always say it. Transfer season, I don't take part in it for that exact reason, because it's all outside noise. When the team tells me we've signed a player, hey, now I'll talk about him. I could be talking about players, but just imagine if we did that for every player that Man United men is linked with. My goodness, the conversations we'd be having, it would go mad. So I suggest just being really careful with what you're listening to and who you're listening to, and just try and enjoy the ride, guys. Honestly, it's such a good game and we're having such a good time. If you're going to allow it to be ruined by all this chat around outside, I don't think it's a good idea. Mr. Dons, but I don't think good management skills involves recruiting a load of players and rarely playing them during the season when you were complaining about depth last season and the talent gap is small. Listen, I can't disagree with your opinion in general, but again, you don't know why they're not playing. Adriana Leon, something's gone on there. Something's gone on. It has to have done, because why else would she not be playing? Why else would they potentially accept something? When you buy a player, you buy it based on what you've seen, what you know. But you don't know what they're going to be like, whether they're any good in the dressing room, whether they're going to put the effort in, whether they're going to try, whether they're going to be like Angel Di Maria. He turned up. He was gone very soon. I can't say that. That's libelous. But he got he got burgled, and he used that as his excuse to go away. It made it very easy for him, because staying and doing the hard work maybe isn't quite as popular. So I think there's going to be arguments whichever way you look at this. And so we are going to have to bring it to a bit of a close, because to be fair, we have now done this for about 45 minutes. And there's a couple of things that we want to touch on just before the football starts. But again, here, this team, girls, are united. Don't you see, if he continues to sideline one player, the whole team will react? Well, are they, though? If the whole team is reacting, is that what you think is happening? I don't think that's happening. I really question what some of you are seeing with your eyes, because what I'm seeing with my eyes is a team that's fighting for the title, and those people don't need to get on. They just need to do their job, which is what I was talking about. So you are hilarious, TJ. Like, honestly, I've taught you well. Yes, you get your outside noise from outside. Very good. You're hilarious. Connor's gone again, but he's going to be back immediately. He's logged himself on twice. He's logged himself here as the not lagging Connor, so that's great news. I don't know if that comes up when we do this. Let's have a look. Yeah, there you go. Look, not lagging. Yay. Fingers crossed. I critic myself. That has influenced a few of mine, and that's fine. Listen, there's nothing wrong with critiquing. It's really not. But there is loads. So you've just got to pick and choose. Listen to what the boss is saying. Read between the lines by all means. but it's all good. Lanzel says, don't mind it, need a laugh today. And here we always in and out. Honestly, he's doing the okey cokey as Connor. Unfortunately, don't play as many games as the men, so no need to rotate. Just play once a week. Apparently, Connor's camera looked much better. I agree, it's not there. So now he's back again. Honestly, he'll settle down eventually. And yeah, Tottenham going to be a hard game. So just before we have a little look at the poll, I know you've all been voting. If you haven't been, get clicking. Have a look at that poll, see what you can do. But just before we do, I just want to have a quick chat, and it's going to be mainly based around the Lionesses, but international call-ups. Mary Earps in line to make her 30th cap. Maya Letitia put into the team after making her debut last year in November. Ella Toon, obviously, she's on 27 with 15 goals. Katie Zellum, I mean, you want to talk to me about somebody who gets called up to a football team and then doesn't get the chance to play? Hello. You know, Katie Zellum is always coming for the England games and not playing. But she doesn't go, oh, I don't want to go to England. So, you know, she goes again. And Russo, of course, with 17 appearances and 10 goals, which is pretty good. So my question for you, Yehuda, seeing as how it's just me and you again, is what's your thoughts on the internationals, the Arnold Clark Cup? Are you pleased with some of the players that have been called up? Obviously, Leon not called up, Tunkara not called up. Are you fussed about the fact that these international players, hi Connor, are not being chosen?
So sorry, this is awful.
About 20 times in and out, Connor.
This is
I think he's okay now, though. So go on, Yehuda. What do you think?
Not really. To be fair, I don't take too much of an interest in the. Well, I'm not English, so Arnold Clark Cup doesn't means a lot to me. Of course, it's always nice to see our players being called up. As a fan of a team, I take pride in every player that is being called up. It's nice to see that Katie is in there and Maya. And eventually, it can only be good for them. Some are afraid that they will be injured or whatever, but it can only be good. And Leon hasn't been called up. I guess that because she's not playing club football, so she doesn't have too much game time recently. Although I think she has been a very important player for Canada. So it's a shame. It's a shame for her. But yes, all in all, I think it's a good thing.
Good points. Mr. Connor, if you are with us, first thing we're going to say is no, Chris. He's not been going. There's no knife and fork in his hands, is there? There's no way that's been going on. We'd have seen that. But yes, with regards to the players, I mean, I find this really interesting. So, Paris, not called up, but she has played probably more regularly than quite a lot of those players. You know, obviously not more than Earps and Mayer, Toon and Zellum, Russo. They do generally tend to start, but Paris has been given opportunities and she's played reasonably well, but hasn't been called up. Whereas Laura Coombs, for example, has. What's your thoughts on that one? Because we said Tunkara and Leon not called up, not playing, but it's not just that, is it? You know, if we're going to sit here and say we're ruining international players' careers, we're not also ruining Keats by letting her play. You know, or is it just down to international managers to pick what they want to pick, and really it's got nothing to do with us?
Well, that was the point I was going to make. You know, Paris has played a lot more, obviously, than VBR. I know Vilde has been included, but like obviously Leon in particular, she's played a lot more, and Paris has not been picked. Personally, I think highly. I think you're right. I don't even ask. Isn't there a provisional squad that's come out that Leon's not in? I think. Or something like that. I might be completely wrong. I don't follow internationals that much. But we'll say on Paris, I think the last few weeks has probably dropped her out of the conversation. She's right on the edge. You know, I think she's right on the edge of that conversation. But when you're looking at the other attacking players that Serena could have picked, you know, Lauren James absolutely tearing up for Chelsea. Obviously, you've got Hemp in there, Kelly, Park, all played obviously exceptional. Russo, Robinson, obviously good youngster over at Brighton, Ebony Salmon. You're not going to pick Paris, I don't think, over a lot of those. So I'm not she's right on the edge. I think she has a good end to the season. I think she's obviously in the conversation then for the World Cup squad. But it's good to see. Like I said, Zalem obviously picked again. A lot of fans have criticism of her, but again, Serena has picked her. There's a lot of other midfielders she could have picked, by the way. Obviously, Utilise getting back in there, great to see as well. I think she's going to be fighting to get minutes at the World Cup. Obviously, England have got a pretty strong defensive unit as it is. But there's opportunities there to get into the starting squad. I think Laetitia is that good. I think she can push and get into that starting 11. So yeah, it's good to see obviously United getting obviously Emily Ramsey as well. I know she's on loan. I've noticed at Everton this season, but she is technically still our player. So we've got 2 keepers in there. I know Lanzel's talking about Blundell. She's probably the next one on the list. I know a lot of fans want Galton in there and things like that. She's again come out and said that it's still not on her list. She doesn't want to do that. So yes, on form, well, not on form, she's been injured, but on quality, yes, Galton's in the conversation, but she doesn't want to do it. So that's out of the question. But Blundell, the question you're going to ask, I know we're going to be biased towards the United players, but has Blundell been better than? I mean, if you're going off fullbacks, obviously Daly not really a fullback, but Neve Charles obviously at Chelsea, Lucy Bronze. I've not watched much of Barca, so I couldn't give an opinion on that. Greenwood. Although, and Carter may be a fullback as well. So Hannah is in there as a conversation, certainly on the edge as well. I don't think she'd have been far off. So yeah, it's good to see some of the United girls still picked. And like you said, Paris is the one that, like you said, a lot of people are saying, oh, they're not picked because they're not playing. I know the French coach has come out and said that, but I'm sorry if you're listening to what the French coach has got to say. I don't think I'm not going to try and pronounce her name. Is it Diacre? There we go. That's what I'm going to
pronounce her name. He says whilst doing it.
Yeah, I was going to say, but yeah, she didn't specifically call out United. What the question was is why Tunkara wasn't picked, and gave a reason. She's not played, so I think she actually called United out, which is just factually correct. So yeah, it's good to see that we're still getting picked despite. What people might think is, like I said, England have got a strong squad. To get into a Lionesses squad, you've got to be decent. There's a lot of depth and a lot of good youngsters coming through that could potentially push their way into that squad as well. So we've got internationals, that are getting picked all over the place. That's good to see as well.
Absolutely, and as you said, Diacre and Priestman specifically calling out United. But again, who would you drop for Tunkara to come on and play? We've got the best defence in Europe, in my eyes. I know there's some that haven't conceded as many, but we've only conceded 6 goals. I think we've got one of the best defences, without a doubt. Who do you drop to allow Tunkara to start? And equally, same with Leon, really. We were scoring. I know that we haven't in the last game, but that was the first game where we hadn't scored. So, tricky one. Definitely a tricky one. So there we go. Hannah, a better attacking fullback than those you mentioned, Connor.
I would agree with that. But I'd agree with that, by the way. Maybe not. Bronze is probably the one. I know people, have their opinions on Lucy Bronze, but that's probably the only one that you'd go, maybe not. But Blundell this season, for sure. I think you could make a case that she's definitely in that conversation. I said, you're looking at the fullbacks there. On that left-hand side, obviously, I know Daly plays there for England, but if Daly's going to be playing a more attacking role, she might do. Obviously, she's been doing that for Villa. I know she was doing that in the States previous, but, there's only really Daly on that side. Greenwood can play left-back, but, Serena seems to prefer her, and City, obviously, in the centre. So Hannah could push her way into that left-back spot, certainly on the form she's done this season.
Good point. Lanzel's put with Leah out. That was Leon's opportunity, but Leah's back, so it's not happening. And you know what? If that's the case, that's the case. I just don't feel like we're giving Skinner enough trust. I can't see what the guy has done to deserve the level of harassment that guy is getting. I find it crazy. At the end of the day, why are we not trusting the guy? He's not led us down the garden path. He's actively trying to make us better. He constantly says how good our fans are. He's constantly talking about progressing and trying to do the right things. He said that we'd close down the gaps that we had before. We were letting in late goals and doing silly things, and we're not letting in late goals and doing silly things as a rule this season. So we're doing the things that we were expecting to do. Some people, I don't want to use the word, because I don't feel it so much from you guys here within our lovely little All for United community, but there just seems to be too many agendas of just get Skinner out because we just don't like him. And to me, it's no different to the way some people were treating Paris when she first came in. It's almost like if your face fits, which is a real shame. But there we go. We've got to bring this down at some point, and now will be a good time because it is 3 minutes until we have to face the Dirty Leeds. So in order to do that, we are going to have to close it down. But before we do, let me talk to you about the poll. The poll was amazing, and thank you so much. 150 people effectively took part in the poll that I put out on Twitter for 24 hours, and it was really interesting. Only 1% of people, which if you look at that properly is 1.5 people, so that doesn't really make too much sense, but 1.5 people voted. I think basically that means one person voted for it and they weren't allowed to drop it down for 4th or below. So everybody effectively thinks we're getting Champions League football. 12% said 3rd, 38% said 2nd, and 48% of people, so I worked it out as being about 75 people, agreed with me that we were going to finish 1st, which I thought was really cool. Now, I've got the results of the poll that you guys have done today. Obviously, it's a much smaller sample, as I said it would be. 37 votes. Thank you to the person who just clicked on quickly. It's changed a little bit. Now, in 4th place, I presume Connor's just talking to somebody there because it's quite entertaining anyway, just watching his face. Oh, it's because that's mad. Where I've clicked onto the YouTube link so I can see where the poll is, I can see your mouth moving, Connor. I'm thinking, oh, if he's muted and gone onto the phone. And that's not what's happened. Anyway, never mind. So, in 4th place, says 3%. 3rd place, 27%. 2nd place, 49%. 1st place, 22%. So basically, that result has, at the weekend, has made people think that, for the most part, we're going to drop from 1st to 2nd. Simple question to finish the show, guys. Yehuda, would you agree? Do you think United are going to finish 2nd? Have you changed your mind? What did you vote for originally? Go for it.
I voted for 2nd. I still think we will finish 2nd. Just because I think Chelsea seems too strong at the moment. We have to be perfect in order to be above them, I think, in the end of the season. But who knows? I couldn't wish more that I will be wrong and we will end up at 1st. I wish.
Brilliant. And Connor, you get the opportunity to close out the show with this one. Everyone's been dying to know what you think, what you're saying.
It's typical that the internet starts working at the back end of the show, doesn't it? For the whole hour that we were live, it was messing up, and now all of a sudden it's whatever.
I reckon Charlie wasn't stuck in traffic. I think she's been outside wiggling your wires, and now she's just laughing to herself.
I was going to say, I did put in the chat earlier, Charlie will be with us shortly. It's an hour later, and she's not with us, so missed the boat on that one. No, before the weekend, I voted 2nd, and I think I voted 3rd on this one, purely off the basis I think I don't know. I can see us just dropping points somewhere, but not enough to drop out of the top 3. I think we'll be fine for top 3. I think we'll be pretty comfortable there, but I just don't think Chelsea, I think, are just going to be too strong. I mean, I know they've got the Champions League draws on Friday, so find out who they get in that. But I just think Chelsea's squad is just ridiculous. Saying that, my mind will completely change if we win at Kingsmeadow in the middle of March, because then it is game on. But yeah, I think for now, 2nd, I think, is very, very achievable. I know Arsenal have got the game in hand over us, but they've still got to play. I know they've got the same obviously fixture we have. They've still got Chelsea and City and so on, and us at our place. So yeah, 2nd or 3rd, I think is pretty where we are now.
Interesting. Well, you'll be pleased to know that I said we were going to finish 1st. Obviously, I couldn't vote in the poll because I set it up myself, so I wasn't allowed to push 1st. So I was even more delighted that everybody agreed with me. You've all dropped off, but it's my job to be the man of positivity, and that's what I've tried to do. And I want you to know it's still in our hands, boys and girls. It's still in our hands. We win every game from now to the end of the season. Manchester United women will win the WSL. And Sam's not here to hear it, but I'm sure he'll find out at some point. We're still going to do it. We're still going to do it. We're going to go. We're going to beat Chelsea. it's all going to be fine. We're going to beat them in the backyard. Breathe.
Oh no, 1-0 to Leeds.
Going to happen. We're going to win it. And there we go.
Yehuda, no. Oh, well, that's ruined my bloody evening already. Barry was doing a super positive thing then, and he just, you've got to be kidding me.
They've got 89 minutes still to go. 89 minutes in that game. They're all right. It's only just kicked off. It's fine. Trust me. He hasn't been rotating his team, has he? Because if he has, he obviously wasn't watching.
Well, it's no Casemiro. It's Sabitzer and Fred in the midfield. So.
Right, see? So Sabitzer's just sorting himself out. He'll get there. Don't worry about it. It's all going to be fine. It's going to be lovely. So there we go. We're going to win the league. Everything's great. We're going to go and watch the football now. Granted, with a 1-0 handicap to start off with, but it's fine. It's going to be great. We'll still win. Come back tomorrow. I'll be doing the Leeds review on the men's channel. And if we don't win, you get your weekly positivity there as well. I'll drag you up by your collar again, but not like Casemiro, because I don't want to get sent off. We have got to go, though. So have yourself a lovely evening, and we will see you all next time. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.